What is up, guys? Joe Sports back in with another video. And with Chris Paul recently being traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and when I say recently, I mean like just yesterday, I think personally he won't be staying very long, and I think Sam Presti is working hard to find him another trade destination so that Chris Paul can go out and contend. And I have 3 trade destinations for Chris Paul that would make sense, you know. But just speaking on it, why I don't think Chris Paul should stay on the Thunder. Obviously, because the Thunder are moving on to a different era. They're trying to tank, and it wouldn't make sense to be paying someone $40 million when you're trying to tank, because that's just taking away from your team. You know, potentially if you want to go out there and try to absorb some cap space to get future picks, something like the Hawks are doing, you won't be able to do that because you have $40 million just eating away at your cap space. But getting into it, my first trade is sending Chris Paul to the Timberwolves. Now, this trade for the Timberwolves makes a lot of sense. Well, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it makes sense because you're showing Karl-Anthony Towns that you want to win, first off, and you're pairing him with at least an all-star caliber type player. I wouldn't say he's an all-star type player maybe now, but he's still a top 10 point guard in this league. But the trade I propose is Chris Paul and a future first to the Timberwolves for Andrew Wiggins, Jeff Teague, and maybe a second or two. Now, for me, I feel like you would probably have to include a first-round pick if you're trying to trade away Chris Paul, because, you know, just thinking about Chris Paul is, 33 now, okay? Last season, he wasn't good. He's injured a lot, and I mean, he's making $40 million a year. So teams are going to be super scared to take on something like that, especially a team possibly, I mean, maybe not possibly like the Timberwolves, because at least they still have Cat. Maybe Andrew Wiggins if he can get it back going again to, you know, play off of, to succeed off of if Chris Paul doesn't work out. So, but if Chris Paul can give you like 15 and 10, 15 and 9, you know, that'd be great. I'm just thinking about the pick and roll, the pick and pop with Chris Paul and Karl-Anthony Towns should be deadly, you know. And I think Chris Paul is one of those players who can play till he's like 36, you know, because he's a player that doesn't rely on athleticism, so he's not a big contact guy, you know. He's not gonna get contacted. I mean, he's a great playmaker, a great facilitator, and I think he can be that for the remainder of his career. And not even to mention how good of a defender he is. He's a guy he's a multi-time steals leader. He's made all NBA defensive teams, maybe not, you know, recently, but in the past. So, but yeah, that's looking at from the Timberwolves side. If you make that trade, are the Timberwolves a 5th seed? I think they're a team that can probably just make the playoffs as a 6th seed, and then probably scare teams in the playoffs, potentially depending on how Karl-Anthony Towns plays, because when he first made the playoffs with Jimmy Butler, he didn't play so well, you know. So hopefully he's past that. But looking at this trade from the the Thunder standpoint, getting Andrew Wiggins, I believe Andrew Wiggins right now just needs a change of scenery. I think that's his big problem right now. He's getting attacked from all these fans, but I think he needs to change the scenery. You know, there's an interview, not an interview, but like it was on NBA TV. It was one of his old coaches that said Andrew Wiggins is not, you know, like these other NBA players. He needs to be talked to privately. You need to have one-on-one with him. You know, you can't talk to him as a team. You have to talk to him individually. And I think he's right. You know, if he could potentially get back to what he was, I believe it was the 2nd or 3rd season when he was averaging 23, close to 24 points per game. That's amazing. And I mean, he's still so young, you know, so he has so much to grow. I mean, I just think the Thunder, you know, this would be a great pickup for you guys. I know he's making a big contract. He's making around, 27 mil, but I mean, he's like two years already into it. 3 years, I think he can, you know, go back to that potential. I think he can definitely be a 20-point per game scorer, especially on a team like the Thunder who maybe have no path, so he can put up stats on that team. But yeah, and then I mean, Jeff Teague is just a cap filler, and then the 2nd round pick is the 2nd round pick. But that's my first trade. Moving on though, moving on to the Pistons trade, I have Chris Paul and again a future 1st round pick to the Pistons for Reggie Jackson, Tony Snell, Langston Galloway. Now, I'm going to start off with the Pistons side of this. Obviously, same thing I said with the Timberwolves. You're just looking to win, especially with the East, with how open it is. I think if you're looking at the East, right now, there's 2 teams that are locked to be definite contenders. The Sixers and the Bucks. Those teams are title contenders. Everything else is weird. I mean, I think it's a 12-team race. Yes, a 12-team race in the East right now. And that'll just put you guys above a bunch of teams, you know. I'm just thinking about it, you know, starting lineup. Chris Paul at the 1, Luke Kennard at the 2. I don't know who do you have at the 3, maybe Tony Snell, and then you have Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond. That's a Lob City 2.0, but I mean, kind of a lot worse, considering. Well, maybe not a lot worse because Blake Griffin has just had an amazing season, and that's another thing. Blake Griffin and CP3, I don't know how their chemistry is, if they like each other or not. It seems like they don't like each other, but I mean, it's basketball, so you just have to suck it up and play. But moving on to the Thunder side of this, now that I look at it, I'm pretty sure the Pistons are gonna have to add another first round pick because these guys are just cap fillers. This is just so that you can create cap space. You have all the draft. That's my mindset from the Thunder, at least. You already have all this draft capital, So just use Chris Paul just to get rid of that cap, Get rid of that cap. Reggie Snell, I believe his deal is up next year. Same thing with, did I just say Reggie Snell? Oh my goodness. Reggie Jackson, I believe. His contract is up next year. Same thing with Tony Snell and Langston Galloway. I'm pretty sure they're all up. If not 2020, then in 2021. And you know who are free agents in 2021? Just to name a few: Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, Paul George, Giannis, Bradley Beal. Potentially, if you're looking good, maybe you'd be able to snag one of those guys. I don't know, though, but that's just my opinion. I think that trade makes good sense. For the Pistons, you're looking to win now. And for the Thunder, you're just looking for cap relief, But yeah, that's how I view that. And my last and final trade is a big one. A 3-team trade. I don't know if all of the cap or stuff makes sense, but hey. Okay, so the Miami Heat get Chris Paul and 2 first-round picks. Maybe 1. Maybe they don't get a first at all, depending on how they view those. The picks can either go either way. And they get J.R. Smith, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. The Thunder get Goran Dragic, James Johnson, and a future first. Maybe, just maybe, the Thunder can pull out another young guy, maybe like a Derrick Jones. If they include Tyler Herro, that's going to be such a steal, but I doubt that. And the Cavs get Justice Winslow. Now, let me just discuss this really quickly for you guys. I don't think the cap makes sense on this. Now that I think about it, but whatever. So for the Heat, obviously you're getting Chris Paul. Shows you want to win now alongside Jimmy Butler, because how their team is constructed now, I think they're a team that can push for the playoffs. They might not even make the playoffs this year. I mean, considering how their starting lineup will potentially look. I mean, now that I think about it, their starting lineup, it's decent. Goran Dragic, Tyler Herro will probably be at the 2, Justice Winslow at the 3. You'd probably have Kelly Olynyk at the 4, and then Bam at the 5. I mean, that's a decent. In the East, any team can make the playoffs in the East. You can win less than 41 games. You can be less than 500 and still make the playoffs. That's happened numerous times. So maybe that team does push for the playoffs. But I think just getting Chris Paul just adds that extra confidence, that extra potential insurance. If, maybe, God forbid again, if Jimmy Butler goes down with injury, at least you have Chris Paul to help you contend and win. And then J.R. Smith. J.R. Smith, his contract is only $3 or $4 million guaranteed, I believe, out of $15 million. So if you trade for him and waive him, you're saving yourself $11 million on the cap, and that'd be great for now and for the future, because potentially you could use that added cap to get under the hard cap, and then potentially go out and use that minimum that you have to sign one of those vets that could potentially help you. Also, for the Thunder, Goran Dragic, James Johnson, again, like I said previously for the Pistons, these are just cap fillers to get rid of that contract earlier. And I believe both of these contracts are up this year. I think at least Goran Dragic is. I know for a fact his is up this year. I think James Johnson up either this year or 2021. And then the future first, just adding more draft capital. And then the Cavs getting Justice Winslow. Now, is Justice Winslow worth it for the Heat to get rid of him to release some cap? I don't know, but essentially a trade-off of Justice Winslow for Chris Paul. I don't know. I don't know if the Heat do it. If it was for Russell Westbrook, I think 100% the Heat do this. But now with Chris Paul, I'm kind of iffy on it. But if the Cavs somehow pull this off, that'd be great. This was just me trying to insert my team into it. I don't know. But this is just my 3 trade proposals. Tell me what you guys think of them. Tell me your opinion on them. I don't know. I'm not a GM, as I said. So this is just something that came off the top of my head. Well, not off the top of my head, but this is just something that I thought a little of. So yeah, trying to pump out this content. But I hope you guys did enjoy. It's So Sports, and I'm out. Peace.